Hey Dad, what's up? I'm gonna wait a second for a couple people to show up. Hey Michael. I'm gonna give it a minute or two, see if some people load in. I've got some thoughts I want to load off my mind, so while we're waiting for a couple people to show up, see if some people are interested in this, I'm just gonna play a tune. Hey Jake, what's up, man? All right, what's up, guys? We got a couple people here. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I've had this idea bouncing around in my head for about a month now or so. I've talked with a lot of people about this. I've been really trying to iron out exactly what I'm thinking here, and I wanted to do this live stream to present some of these ideas I've been having and kind of have a discussion about it. I'd love if you have any questions about anything I'm saying, or if I say something and you think, wait, I don't think that's right for X, Y, or Z, like please leave a comment. I want to have these ideas kind of challenged. I want some people I want to go back and forth on some of this stuff. So I kind of had this idea a while back about, basically I thought of what would an unaccredited music school look like? And what I meant by that was, what would a music school look like where there were no requirements given by any top-down authority to tell you these are the type of things you need to teach at this school, and in order to obtain a degree from this school, students must do X, Y, and Z. If I could come up with my own program to teach music to people, what would I put in that program? And I've just been thinking about it a bunch. Kind of the reason I wanted to think about this was I just think about the fact that people will go $100,000 in debt to get a degree, a music degree. And when you're 18 years old, you can't get a $20,000 loan from a bank. You know, a bank will deny you for a $20,000 loan, but the government will give you a $100,000 loan to go to school. And the loans from the government, you can't declare bankruptcy on, and if you die, they go upon other people in your family and stuff. So what's weird to me is I have noticed, being a professional musician out of a music program I've basically been a professional for 5 years, I've noticed that there are plenty of people I know with music degrees who play music phenomenally, and there are an equal number of people I know with music degrees who are absolutely lousy and don't have jobs in music. You know, everybody I've talked to has agreed with me on this. There's people I went to school with where if I would not want my one-day child to be a student in their choir program or their band program, because I don't think they're actually qualified to teach, even though they have this piece of paper from a university that says they are. So I've just been thinking about that a lot. It's like, man, why do we spend so much money on music schools? And are we really getting our money's worth? When somebody spends $100,000 to go to school for music, are they getting that much in value? And is there a way to provide the same sort of value, the same sort of product for far cheaper? So I looked some stuff up. I've got some stuff written down here. I didn't plan on exactly what I wanted to say. I kind of wanted to keep it a little spontaneous. But on average in America, school costs $14,267 per year. So that's an average of all schools. So that's both the cheapest community college or state school and the most expensive private school are factored into that. But if you average everything together, it's $14,000 per school year. So you multiply 14,000 by 4. If you get a 4-year degree on average, what would that be? 28 times 2 would be $56,000. So 4 years of school on average costs $56,000. And one thing that I think I've noticed about it, this is a little bit my personal experience, a little I've noticed from other things, is what comes along with that degree is you have to take classes in many, many different things, some of which maybe you don't have any interest in or aren't actually applicable to what you want to do or are capable of doing. So I believe that the two most important reasons to go to school for music are to have a really good private teacher, to take private lessons where you can have a one-on-one interaction with a teacher and they can help shape your education in a really shape your education in a very personal and one-on-one way. And I also believe that music school provides a community. And I think those two, Janae, thank you. Those two factors, I think, the factors of a private teacher that can really help shape you and mold you to become the musician you want to be, and the community that you get from being in a school, I think those are the two most important things that school provides. I want to address each of those. I'm going to start with the private lessons thing first. So back to that other number I had, school year, 1 year of school on average, which is 30 weeks. It's not even a full year. It's 30, 2 15-week semesters is $14,000. If you had a $14,000 budget to take private lessons, you could take a $100 an hour lesson every week for 140 weeks. That's almost 3 years. Let's say you could take two $50 an hour lessons. I play piano. I charge $50 an hour for when I teach. And I think for where the part of the country I live in, that seems like pretty standard for professional teachers. You could take a private lesson in jazz and in classical, or in composition and classical, or whatever. You could take two $50 an hour lessons a week for $100 a week, and $14,000 would get you almost 3 years of that. And that's not 3 school years. That's through the summer. That's through December. That's all this time. Whereas $14,000 gets you 30 weeks of lessons and 1 year of school. And I think the lessons are the most important part. And what I think is interesting about it is you're also, when you pay for a semester of school, is you're locked in for those 15 weeks. So to compare my undergraduate degree to my graduate degree, my teacher at my undergrad, Mark Flugie, was the top notch of the top notch. I really don't think I could have asked for a better private teacher. And I would happily pay $100 an hour to take lessons from him. Always look forward to lessons from him. Now, at a different school I went to, I don't want to slander anyone, but at another school I went to, after my first lesson, I immediately knew my teacher and I were not a good fit. I immediately knew I was not going to get from that teacher what I was looking for. But I was there at the school. I was locked in. I had paid the 10 grand for the semester. I was locked in to 15 weeks of lessons in addition to other things. But I think kind of the whole idea of you have to go to school and take lessons from a teacher in a music school to learn about, wow, there's 10 people here. This is awesome. To learn how to be a professional musician. I just think that it's so expensive, and you could just take lessons from an awesome musician and your dollar gets stretched much, much further. I even think about, there's plenty of teachers at school, like I think everybody at a music school, please, if you're here and you're like agreeing with me, if you go to a music school, are there music teachers in your school that you know are lousy and like you feel bad for your friend who plays X instrument and has to take from such and such teacher? And it's like, if you're not in music school, you can just go find a different teacher. You can go, this teacher's not working out for me. I'm going to find somebody else to teach me these lessons. And there's so many teachers who have been like they did undergrad, and then they did graduate, and they get doctorate, and then they just go teach. And they maybe never even had a professional time in their life where they weren't tied to the academics in any sort of way. So I know for a fact there's teachers at schools, or if you said, hey, I noticed that wedding gigs pay the most money in my town. That's what it seems like. What are 10 songs I should learn so I can play in wedding bands? There's teachers at schools that would not be able to tell you that. There's teachers that would not be able to say, hey, even though I play bassoon, it seems like the people who can improvise get the most work. Can you teach me how to improvise? There's all these things where these institutions hire people that don't have these skills they can share with people in a these skills they can pass on to these students that are going to help them find work in music. And like I said before, I know plenty of people who I went to school with who were like music education majors, and I would not be happy if they were the band director in the school district that my eventual kids were in. And plenty of people who got other degrees who don't perform with music because they're not good enough. The beauty of music is that merit really does reign supreme, and especially if you're performing, it's all it is can you play, yes or no? Evan says, what's up, Evan? So is the purpose of this idea you're having specifically for gigging musicians? At least initially, yes. I have this, basically, I think there's this precedent in America right now that after high school, you have to go to college and you're expected to go to college. And I think that sending kids to school, some of these music schools, I haven't looked up these numbers yet, but some of these schools, some of these higher end schools, Berkeley, Eastman, any of the schools in New York City, people are paying $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year to go to a school like this. And if you're going to school to get a degree in music performance, I don't think you need to go 6 figures into debt to learn how to perform music. People, you look at the jazz musicians from pre-1950s, you look at, you hear stories about Diz and Monk having this house where they just had musicians come and just hang out at this house. My buddy Steve is liking this right now. He's got this house where people just go over and we hang out and we listen to music and we talk about music, and nobody's paying, $100 an hour to go to this house. It's just a community built from friends. The Diz and Monk community, they just were friends who got together. Preach, yeah, what's up, dude? They got together and just worked on stuff together. So I think, kind of to wrap up the point about the private lessons, is there's no reason that you have to get your private lessons tied to this university where you're required to jump through a dozen hoops in order to take lessons from this teacher at this university. And I think, for somebody like me who only has an undergraduate degree, I'm not technically eligible to teach at a university, even though all my students I have, you could ask anyone I teach, any of the parents of the people I teach, I get testimonials that I teach them very well. And I know I watch these students live change. I teach some adults. Jake commented earlier, he's in the stream. I gave him a handful of lessons, and he paid me extra for a couple of them and told me they were the best lessons he's ever took. But I'm not qualified to teach at a college. It just doesn't add up to me that people have to pay all this money to go to a place where somebody who might be extra qualified doesn't have the right documentation to say they're qualified, even if they are. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about as far as the other most important thing that music school provides. Oh, thanks, Jake. Yeah, sorry for forcing your testimonial out of you. But so earlier I said that I think the two most important things about music school are having a strong private teacher and strong private lessons, and also the sense of community that you get from school. Evan says, I agree with what you're saying. Some of what the problem could be is that when someone is 18, they might not be entirely sure they want to be a gigging musician. They might want to be a choir. Thank you, Dad. Qualified, just not certified. Exactly right. Evan said they might not be entirely sure that they want to be a gigging musician. They might want to be a choir or band director, school instructor, private instructor, etc. And they're most likely not going to get all of that info from one person. Evan, I totally get what you're saying. I think I'm going to get there at the end, but I need to get through some other stuff first. But I know exactly what you're saying. So I wanted to talk about that. The second main benefit of music school, I believe, is the community you get from school. Some of the people I went to undergrad with became my best friends, and almost 10 years later, 9 years later, I guess, we still play together music a lot. And some of these friends have moved to Nashville or to Florida or to Los Angeles or New York. And the bond we formed, I know, is eternal, and I know that the lessons they've taught me I value with more than like anything I would value from most other people. So the community I got from my undergrad experience was unbelievable and really did shape who I was as a musician. However, I don't believe, community friends and professional connections, I believe that's kind of all the same thing. Like, some of my best friends are my music community and my professional connection. A lot of the work that I get still comes from people I met through school. I want to make a point that I don't think a strong community through school is guaranteed. I know at the undergrad I went to, at least from my observation, it seems like there's pockets of strong communities that come through that school. And I just so happened that the class 2013, 2014, 2015, that set of jazz studies majors had a core of people who were very, very interested in taking it seriously. And that was kind of a vehicle to make us grow and really evolve and develop. I know there's times at that school where it seems like there isn't a lot of people really interested in taking it very seriously. And at the graduate program I went to, I spent one semester there, and I made a community of friends that I really liked, but I didn't find musicians that I fell in love with playing with right away. I didn't find people that I really wanted to start a community of musicians that were a force to be reckoned with right away. I don't believe that school, just because school is a vehicle to foster a community, I don't believe that always happens. And I truly think some of the fact that I got such a strong community from my undergrad was luck, at least to some degree. And I've written, what did I write here? I wrote about that, communities. Well, and I said this earlier, the jazz giants formed these communities without going to school at all. And I know people in my city, and I'm sure there's other cities, people who didn't go to school for music, who are elders 20, 30 years older than me, who have phenomenal careers and play phenomenally well. And they're certainly mentors to me. I've cultivated many, many strong relationships with people I didn't go to school with. There's a bass player, there's several bass players I play with a lot who I did not go to school with, and we became friends just by being on the music scene together. There's older musicians who I didn't go to school with, or who maybe didn't go to school or went to other schools, where we just found each other. And I believe that were I just to move to Columbus, and were there not these institutions and people just moved to cities where they knew music was happening, creative people and inspired people and motivated people would find each other and strive to create something good together. I was discussing with one of my friends, and I believe that there are creative, like people are curious, and some people are curious and some people aren't curious. And I think, you can mold that with the environment you're in, but I don't believe that the current state of college really pushes people to become more curious. I think, and I would even argue for myself, after I graduated college, I got far more curious than while I was in college. So I think if one of the goals of college is to make people curious about the world and explore both inwardly and outwardly to figure out what their path in the world is, I don't think it actually achieves that. I also think, kind of with the price tag, like, as an 18-year-old, you really don't understand how much debt you're taking on until far later when you're out of school and you start paying these student loans. And there's kind of this understanding in our society that, everybody has debt. It's just like part of what you do. And I think that there's a way to teach music to people without putting them in these massive debt holes. So what else I read about community? Communities can form without a massive price tag, kind of tying that together. One thing I've been thinking about is, okay, a credit hour at a school, for every hour you spend in class, these numbers vary, but like I think on average it's about $40 for each hour you spend in a classroom at a school. You're paying $40. So I want to think about this. If you're taking a music theory class, if 20 people are taking a music theory class, that means 20 people for the hour they're there, $40 are leaving their pockets and going to the school. So 40 times 20, that's $800. Does that $800 go to the person teaching the class? And the answer is clearly no. It's college professors notoriously get paid a very, very low salary. And I just wonder if a professor who spends an hour teaching a class is even getting $50 for that class they're teaching, even though $800 left the pockets collectively of the 20 students who took that class for that hour. And one thing I've been looking into is there's an art space literally down the street from my house. I've been emailing them, and that would cost me $50 an hour to rent out that space. So if I rented out the space for 2 hours, and let's say I rented the space on a night from 6 to 8, and from 6:30 to 7:30 I taught a jazz improv class, or I taught a music theory class. And if I charge everybody $10 who shows up to get in, if I have 15 people show up, that's $150 that comes to me. I spend $100 on the venue. I walk away with $50. The 15 people who went got a high level of education in whatever subject I was talking about, whether it was, I think I would be highly qualified to talk about ear training or improvisation or music theory, or even teach a piano class or certain elements of music history. The people got a college level education for 1 hour on that subject for $10 as opposed to $40. And the beauty of it is, let's say I have a recurring class. If you hate it, you only lost $10. You don't have to go again. The onus is totally on you to decide if you're going to be interested in what this teacher has to say. If somebody comes to my class and goes, man, Danny didn't really teach me what I wanted him to teach me, they're not locked into 15 weeks of my class at $40 an hour. They spent $10 to go one of my classes, and they lost $10, but that's way better than, you take a 3 credit hour class. That's $120 a week for 15 weeks. What's 120 times 15? Somebody do that math. 10 weeks would be $1,200, plus that'd be $1,800. I certainly took classes in my undergrad where the teacher was terrible, both music and non-music classes. I'd love to get some comments on the chat from people. Did you have undergraduate professors who did not teach you what the class purported to be teaching you? This is even beyond saying, I was required to take X class that I didn't want to take. It's just, I certainly had teachers who taught classes who were not qualified to teach the class that they wanted to. But in order to get my piece of paper that says I'm a qualified jazz musician, there were these hoops I had to jump through. I had to take these classes. I think it's a good segue into the fact that while I was at Capital, one of the things about the jazz studies degree was there were a lot of electives built into it. And at the time, I was like, oh, this is really great. I'm going to sign up for a music business class. I'm going to sign up for audio electronics. I'm going to sign up for the history and production of electronic music. I signed up for a couple of these classes. I signed up for one music business class and 2 or 3 basically music technology, engineering, recording classes. And at the time, it was like, man, this is really great. Okay, Ray, I'll stop for a second. Ray said, not in music degree, but for sure in business class, I had plenty of profiles that were mediocre at best. Yes, and you were required to take their class, even if you didn't get a lot out of it. Every time you went there, $40 left your pocket. Didn't even go to them, and you didn't learn what you felt like you should have learned. Evan, well, they might have even been qualified, but some of them have issues with teaching. Yeah, that's a totally separate issue. Certainly, teachers in music, teachers who are excellent musicians, but did not have the teaching skills to teach what they knew. So when I was at Capital, I took a couple recording classes and I took a music business class. Now, some of those were better than other others. But the reality of it is while I was in school, the only thing I was interested in was learning how to play piano. There was a part of me, the back of my mind, that knew, yeah, if I want to be a professional musician, I should know about the music business. Yeah, if I want to be a professional musician, I should know about recording and recording technology and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I had a recital I needed to give. I had gigs I needed to play. That's what was important to me. And I put in the bare amount of work I had to pass those classes. It was like, do what I need to so I can get my B and then get out of there, because the second that class is over, I'm going to go practice piano. Fast forward to me getting out of school. When I got out of school, I started booking gigs for myself, so I had a trial by fire in that regard where I learned how to book gigs. And then also fast forward to, I think it was 2017, like November of 2017, I found this online course called How to Get Jazz Gigs. And it was like a $200 course for this online thing. I paid $200 of my own dollars out of my own pocket to take this course. And I completed about 80% of the course, and that was really valuable. And the thing is, I think I only did it because I spent my own money on it, and I saw it as a deficiency in my own life, where I'd been playing professionally for a couple years. I don't remember how to book gigs class in undergrad exactly. Well, and I think that the duality of my point is, yeah, there's no how to book gigs class in undergrad. And also, while I was an undergrad, while I was 20 years old, I didn't care so much about how to book gigs as I did about learning how to play the piano. And years later, once I felt like I developed those skills to a certain point, I went, okay, I need to find a resource to help me book gigs. And I found this Jazz Fuel website, and I paid money out of my own pocket to take this class. And that was valuable to me. On the recording classes I took in school, again, I put the bare minimum in, because at that time it was like, I need to learn how to play piano. These recording skills that they're trying to teach me, that's just on the back burner. Fast forward to about a year ago when I started posting comedy videos on Facebook and making comedy videos to post. That's when I learned, I need to get a DAW. I need to get an interface. I need to learn how to do this. And, I look back on some of my videos even from just a couple months ago, and I listen to it, and it's like, wow, why did I have the synth that loud? Why does my voice sound so tinny? Why this? Why that? And as I'm going, I'm learning how to get these things right. I'm learning about recording far more than I did in that class. Even if the information in the class was good, I think kind of the way we learn is with deep dives, and we get interested in something and we get fascinated with it. We go, I'm going to learn everything I can about this. And at least from when I was 18 till 22, it was, I want to learn how to play piano. And that was all I cared about. Even at that time, I remember saying, like, I don't even want to learn about synthesizers because I don't think I'll be a synth player. I think I just want to play piano. And it wasn't until I got to a point where I was playing piano at enough of a level that I could dip my foot in a synthesizer water and then study that, and then dip my foot in recording, and then dip my toe in booking gigs and stuff. Okay, what else did I write down? What about a well-rounded education? That might be a criticism somebody might ask. It's like, well, you don't send people to college, they don't get a well-rounded education. A liberal arts school, they teach all these different courses: humanities, ethics, religion, global awareness, diversity, math skills, science skills, X, Y, Z. Isn't that important to be an adult functioning in society? Earlier, I already mentioned the curious versus not curious. I think some people are more curious than others, and the reality of it is none of the classes I took that weren't music in my undergrad made me more curious about those things. I've been learning far more about the way the world works in this past year from reading books that I chose to read and from watching podcasts on YouTube that I picked, that I sought out, than I did in these classes I was required to take. Religion is something that's very interesting to me, and I've always been interested in it, even though my relationship with it has always kind of been in this flux, but I really can't remember learning anything super valuable in my undergraduate religion class. But in this past year, from reading about it and watching stuff on YouTube and listening to podcasts and stuff, I've learned so much that's taught me so much about myself and helped me grow in ways that I couldn't even possibly imagine. Yeah, I already I wrote audio class, business class. I already kind of touched on that I learned when I did stuff on my own is when I started to learn about stuff. When there was a risk, I think kind of a problem with school is there's no risk while you're there. Even if you play bad on a school concert, you don't get kicked out of that ensemble. You stay in that ensemble. If you fail a class, you're not really seeing those dollars vanish until way later down the line, and you might not make that connection. The time you might waste maybe going to parties and drinking or just goofing off and not going to class, you're not realizing that time there's so much money that is being spent every minute you're at a school. So I don't really think that the well-rounded education argument holds water, because I think I said this before on one of my streams like a year ago that, imagine a plumber. A plumber goes to plumbing school where for 6 months they just go to plumbing classes and just learn about plumbing. And they basically take this deep dive into plumbing, and then they go out in the world and become a plumber. And after narrowing their focus to a really, really deep point to only look at this one thing, when they come out on the other side, they blossom into so much more than just knowing how to fix toilets. They learn how to become a businessman, how to interact with people, how to manage money, all this stuff. Oh, Peter Wimberg, what's up, man? Thanks for watching. Complicated questions here. Some college professors actually make very good money. If you look at the highest paid public employees in Cincinnati, after the coaches at UC, you then have the heads of colleges at UC at several thousand. Oh, I scrolled too far. At several hundred thousand each. I know several professors at UC who seem to do very well. I'm not making any comment on whether value is there given what they do. I also think we have too many college professors not teaching as much as they could given other requirements like being published. Most colleges are heavy on the payroll for teachers and even more so administration. I seem to have heard that part-time teachers may only get $1,500 for teaching one class for a semester. Given the cost of a credit hour, the college is doing well. The cost of college has gone up far more than inflation. Part of this is the expectation of what college should offer. Very nice dorms, multiple food options, brand new buildings, state-of-the-art fitness centers, etc. Xavier has essentially been rebuilt and expanded since I was there with what I believe is a student body not much larger. And once it was possible to borrow money to finance college, the costs were able to go up. There's a feeling that I'll pay it later. I think those taking out loans need to look realistically at what they may be able to earn in their chosen career. College isn't for everyone and isn't needed by everyone. Happiness and financial security can be achieved without college. Peter, exactly. I totally agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think, you said you read that some teachers only make $1,500 for teaching their class. And that goes to my point I was making earlier, where if you're spending $40, if let's say, I know this number isn't exactly right, but it's close. If you spend $40 per hour you're in class, if a teacher's teaching a class with 20 people in it, after 1 hour, $800 left those students' pockets. Well, after 2 classes, $1,600 have left those students' pockets. And that teacher gets $1,500 for 15 weeks, maybe 3 classes a week or 2 classes a week, 30, 45 classes. I think you made some really, really good points there. I think kind of your last thing about college isn't for everyone. Everyone needs to think about what they maybe make in their chosen career. I totally agree with you there. I think that there's this thing where everybody has to go to college, and there kind of becomes a paradox there where if everybody has to go, all of a sudden having the college degree isn't an extra thing like it once was. Evan said another argument for colleges, though, is that it's a place where you can put 100% of your focus on learning and honing your craft without having the burden of a full-time job. Thank you for bringing that up, Evan. I have this thing I wrote here. I wrote other pros of school, and I wrote stave off real life to focus in on something. And that's the biggest thing I don't know how to address at this point. The 2 things I wrote is that worth the price tag? Is being able to go focus in on something in a really deep way for 4 years worth what could be $80,000, $90,000, $100,000? And I think there's, for what I'm seeing as a potential future, it's kind of radical. It's like, well, like, what if people's parents save up money for them, not to go to college, but to help invest in them invest in themselves in studying what they want to study? If I had this school where I had a space where I could teach these different classes, and I could charge $10 a class, and I could teach lessons and have people that teach there that charge $50 an hour or $60 an hour, then you could take the same classes and get the same lessons for a fourth of the cost or a fifth of the cost, and kind of build your own curriculum almost. And what Pete said was a great point, that part of like college isn't even just about classes anymore. Like, yeah, every college has state-of-the-art rec center and football field, and the dorms are really, really nice. And the undergrad I went to had like 3 cafeterias, and state-of-the-art equipment in every place and stuff. And not that all of those costs are bad. I understand like there's merit to that, but Pete mentioned something about there's like a pay it later mentality to it. Well, later is eventually going to come, and I'm not so convinced that we can just stay on this path. It's kind of like snowballing downhill, almost out of control. And Evan, another thing I've thought about in argument to your point is I wrote, how dangerous is the infinite extension of adolescence? I think everybody knows people who are 25, 26, 27, 28 years old, maybe older, who struggle with serious failure to launch. People who went to school and maybe graduated, maybe didn't, and moved back home and live with their parents and maybe work a job, maybe pay rent, and keep saying, oh yeah, next year I'm going to go for it. I'm going to become an adult soon. And they're just part of the pro of being able to focus in 100% on what you want without having to worry about money is part of like the flip side of that is like, yeah, but then your adolescence can get extended infinitely. Love it. I'm still an adolescent. Dude, Evan, I totally am with you. So speaking from my experience, I didn't pay rent for the first time until I was 22 years old. Right after I graduated college, I paid rent for the first time at 22. At 25, 2 months before I turned 26, I decided to start a budget and start keeping track of my money. So from when I was 22 till I was 25, I didn't really have a budget. I didn't really know how much I was making. I didn't really know how much I was spending. It was just kind of like, whatever. I was just kind of living not with any like longer time frame in mind. And then when last year, so I'm almost 27, but last year, right before I turned 26, I made a budget and started tracking my money. So I paid rent for 3 years, for 36 months, before I finally went, okay, I need to figure out where my money is coming and where it's going. I just wonder, and I understand, studies say that brain doesn't develop fully till you're 26 years old. So I understand that there's flaws in this argument too, but I just wonder, had I started had thrust with more responsibility at a younger age, at 18, if I had to pay rent for what I was doing, or if the cost of going to school could have been more reflected in my daily life, if I could have more been able to see what was going on with where my money was going, I wonder if I would have had a budget by 22. I wonder if I would have started thinking about a retirement account or saving for a move or saving for potential kids by the time I was 23 instead of by the time I was 25, 26, 27. And I just think that, I don't think we should have 14-year-olds working full-time jobs. I think adolescence is a great chapter in life. I think the time I had as a teenager through high school and college, I have a lot of great memories. I cherish a lot of what happened. I made a lot of mistakes and learned a lot. But I fear that adolescence is stretching into now you're not really an adult till you're 30, and then now you're not really an adult till you're 35, and it's just getting pushed further and further back. And I think going to college and like being in this environment where like you can't really fail like you could if you were just like in the world, I wonder if that's stunting us from doing like blossoming to what we could fully blossom to. The other pros of school I wrote were rehearsal spaces and a practice room, and ensembles. One thing I thought about is teaching an ensemble. If let's say I had a space where I could teach, and I offered a class that was $10 to come to, and people could just come. I wonder if you could start a program where it's like, hey, I do band coaching, and if for your band, I'll coach the band for $75 an hour. So you have a 5-piece band, whatever 75 divided by 5 is, everybody pays $15 each or whatever to get an hour coaching with a professional to help your band grow and develop. So that's pretty much where I'm at with this. I've been thinking about this. I've been talking with people. I worry just about how much debt everybody is holding, and I think a lot of people my age are very unhappy, feel like, the American dream is dead. People feel like we can't get ahead, and like, I know people with 6-figure debt who probably I'm very fortunate to not have a whole lot of debt, but I imagine some of these people feel like they're never going to be out of debt. It's like, oh, I'll never pay this off. I'll never be able to retire. I'll never be able to have the money I want to live the life I want. And I kind of want to, before I stop talking about this college thing and just open it up for people to ask questions, you can ask me questions about this college thing or just about life or music, or I'm probably going to play a song or two while I'll wait for maybe a request or something. Adam Smith said, this is not the exact quote, but I wrote down a paraphrase of the quote, there are 2 ways to enslave a population. One is with swords and the other is with debt. And I think that the debt that is brought on from college is really, really harmful, and a lot of people get completely disenfranchised by it. And I think there's a path out, and the path out is to not go to school and just seek out people to teach you the skills that you're looking for. I had one other point. I just lost it. So I'm going to go ahead and play some piano. Maybe I'll think of it. And if anybody has any questions, please ask. It could be about this, could be about anything. If anybody has any requests too, I'm happy to play anything. What should I play? Evan says, so what are you trying to figure out? What you said earlier about having some sort of music education without requiring college. Yeah, so basically, like, I thought, okay, so I have students who want to go to school, want to be professional musicians. And I just think it's like, man, why should I encourage them to go somewhere? Why should I encourage them to go somewhere where they're going to potentially spend $140,000 to be there? When, I don't make $140,000 a year. I feel like I do very well for myself. I'm not going to say what my income is, but I feel like I do very well for myself. But like most people don't make a lot of money with music, especially right off the bat. And it's like, I have a hard time telling high schoolers, it's like, yeah, you should go to college for music. When I see it's like, well, I'm very qualified to teach music, and I know plenty of other people who are very qualified to teach music, but we don't have master's degrees, so we are not at the universities able to be their teachers. And I just think, when I was in grad school, I spent one semester and I spent $10,000 to be there. And I just saw it's like, man, I'm going to be here at least 3 more semesters. There's probably 4 more semesters because not all my credits transferred, because that's always how it is. So I was like, I'm going to spend $40,000 or $50,000 to get a piece of paper that says I'm a master of playing piano, when the other piece of paper I have that says I'm a jazz pianist doesn't get me work. Or that paper isn't the reason I get work. The reason I get work is because of my personality and my ability to play and my ability to show up and be a team player. All that other piece of paper would allow me to potentially teach at a college. And even so, even from that point, I might need to actually go get a doctorate, which, maybe you get a paid doctorate position, sure, but maybe you're spending another $30,000, $40,000. So I feel like it's like this Ponzi scheme where it's like, go to undergrad and then get your undergraduate degree and then get your master's degree and then get your doctorate degree, so that you can work here and teach and make $20,000 a year from our organization. And it's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. And I just wonder if it's like, could we open up our own, especially with the power of the internet and with the power of like everybody being connected, like if everyone in Columbus who wanted to become a professional musician, if me and other musicians that are my friends went, hey, we can teach music at a very high level, just learn music from us, would that give them a comparable education at a lower cost? And what are the pros and cons of that? So I wouldn't mind seeing something like a music gym, something with like a yearly/monthly membership. We have access to many practice rooms, high quality instruments, discount class rates, and a pool too, I guess. Only the pool. No, that's not a bad idea. Open up a space that's like that seems like almost like a sister program to what I'm thinking, where it's like somebody owns the building and people can pay a subscription to go use the practice rooms in the building. Maybe there's 30 rooms that have pianos in them and you can bring your instrument and practice in these rooms. That's a really interesting concept. And yeah, there could be classes tied to that, or it could be a sister program. It's like, here's the class program, you pay per class, and if you are a member of this thing, your rate for the classes is cheaper. Something like that's actually a really cool way to think about it. And that's exactly what I was looking for this. I certainly don't believe I know what the answer is. I just think I see a system right now that puts people really in debt, and certainly half the people who go don't become professional musicians. And half the people who become professional music teachers, I don't really believe are actually qualified, are not great music teachers. I think just the whole accreditation thing, because we've pushed everybody through college, it's kind of lost its meaning. I'll speak for my sister. She goes to nursing school, and she's in her last semester, and she's sitting here telling me like why. She's like, it feels silly that I need to be in the school for another 2 to 3 months because I have the skills at this point. Like, I'm ready to go work at a hospital as a nurse, but I have to go finish these last couple hoops to get the piece of paper to become a nurse. And she says she has friends who are still in the program, even though, her program did weed a lot of people out, and a lot of people ended up quitting or leaving at some point. She said there's people she's going to graduate with where she imagines her family members being at the hospital that these girls work at, and she thinks about them being a nurse taking care of someone she cares about and thinking, oh my gosh, she's not fit to be a nurse. Like, I hope one of my family members or friends never has to be in the situation where that's the nurse taking care of them. And yeah, she was just talking about how there's like a huge shortage in people who want to teach nursing right now, because teaching nursing at a college doesn't really pay a whole lot. So schools are having a hard time finding certified people to teach nursing because they make more money. They make more money just working at a hospital. So a lot of these nursing programs are cutting numbers because they don't have enough teachers. So we have like a nurse shortage, and it's because of the certification required through college. I just think this whole system is kind of sets it up so that the only way you're allowed to work in certain fields is if you took on a bunch of debt to get the piece of paper to say you're allowed to. Planet Music, judgment-free zone unless it's your junior or senior recital. Yeah, then we're going to just sit in the back. Nobody's going to clap after any of your solos or anything. Yeah, and I just think, like, I also think I was talking with a buddy about, he was talking to one of the professors in school, he was talking about how it seems like the attitude is that professors used to, like, sometimes they would like party with the students and stuff. And like, I think the professor-student relationship can get really sterile. And I know there's professors from my undergrad and stuff where 5 years out now, I finally am starting to feel like there's not this like barrier between us where it's like, oh, I'm like, you were once a professor at my school, so I have to behave in this certain way. And like, that's kind of a whole nother rabbit hole. I haven't teased that one out all the way, but I do have some thoughts there that I'm not ready to totally talk about on here. But yeah, thanks everyone for the comments and stuff. I think there was some really valuable insight given. Pete, I don't know if you're here, but your paragraph was like awesome. Everybody should go read what Pete said, because I think he brought up a lot of good points about some things that are going on with school that are interesting. While I got a couple people here, I'm playing next week. I've got gigs Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and my birthday is next weekend. So Friday, I'm hosting a jam session at Notes. Come through if you've got an instrument, or come through if you don't have an instrument, just come hang out. And Saturday, I'm joining the Deal Breakers on their Bruno Mars tribute. So super excited about that. If you want to help support me in making videos like this and making all the comedy videos and some of the live videos and stuff I've been making, there's a link to my Patreon in the subscription. Right now I have 4 people each giving me $1 a month, which is honestly amazing. I just started the Patreon less than 6 months ago, and I'm already up to $4 a month from it, which obviously isn't my full-time income, but it's cool to see that there's people who are willing to give me $1 a month to help show me that they support what I'm doing and want me to keep making more stuff. I'd love it if you listen to what I had to say and you see a serious hole in my thinking somewhere. I'd love if after this is done, you watch this, if you want to message me or, call me or something, or if somebody really has a total counter argument, we could set up a live stream debate. I think that'd be awesome and really fun. I think it's really important to talk about this stuff, and I'm totally willing to accept that some of what I said probably was maybe wrong or not quite on the mark, but I think it's important to bring up stuff, and I just have fun thinking, now what if this happened, and kind of teasing things out. And the internet's a cool place to kind of show these ideas, and text-based stuff doesn't work very well. I never comment on stuff because comments, nobody's ever listening to each other. They're just talking past each other. So I want to just talk to people kind of in a video format and test my ideas against the internet and the world. So I think I'm going to wrap up here in a couple minutes. I'm going to play another song and wait for anybody who might have any thoughts or comments about anything, really. Maybe something I said, or maybe anything else. And then I'm going to get off here. But yeah, I'm going to play another song, and maybe I'll get through a whole chorus before somebody says something and I feel compelled to stop. All right, cool. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I had a blast doing this. I'm really happy there were like 10, 12, 11, 13 people here a lot of the time. If you just tuned in now, I'm sorry you got the end of this. If you're interested in what the description of this is, please go back and watch it and then leave a comment later. Share this if you think there are other people who might be interested in this, even if you disagreed with a lot of what I said. Yeah, thank you, Evan. I appreciate all the comments. They really did add a lot. Oh, here's another person. Sam, what's up, dude? Sam's a person with some music degrees. A large part of the problem with music is that it has been taken out of its traditional venues, theaters, concert halls, etc., and put in the hands of usually well-meaning academics. Now, almost every university has extensive music programs because it's a money tree. Yeah, exactly. Totally. Well, and you know, I know people that it was like 3 years into music school, it was like, what is going on? Like, this is a disaster. Like, why are they still here? And it's like the school realized they could just keep getting money from them. Janae, thank you. I appreciate you tuning in. It's good to have your support. Debbie, what's up? Hi, Danny. Zach is a music major. Zach as a music major did not finish due to the loan to future income ratio. So I get it. Yeah, Sam says exactly. I mean, we knew. We won't name names, but we know. Our loans should not exceed what you're expecting to make in a year. In other words, your monthly payment should be comparable with your future income. It's a difficult career choice for sure. Happy upcoming birthday. Love you. Love you too, Aunt Debbie. No, that's exactly right. It's like, there's no reason these people get these degrees in music, and, you know, some of the skills they learn don't even like really apply to playing music. Like, you know, Sam, not to like use you as an example, but I'm sure a lot of what you learned singing opera has been like really valuable to you and taught you a lot as a person and stuff. But like, I know like you're part of a sect of school that hasn't ever learned how to make a lead sheet or how to improvise, or singing in styles of music that you might be able to do at a bar or at a club. And it's like, you said it's out of the theaters and stuff. And it's like, there's this tradition of music that I know you hold dearly, like with this classical music and singing and opera and stuff, that like, I think there could be money in it, but all the people who are interested in it go to school and get $100,000 in debt. And it's like, then they can't even like support the thing they want. Or, someone like you who knows a lot about opera music might have this vision to open an opera company and even think of how to make it be a profit, but they need to be able to have some capital to invest in this. And it's like, if you're $100,000 in debt, are you really going to go to a bank and ask for a $30,000 loan to start your opera house? It's like, no way. And it's like, all these people who are interested in the arts are so in debt they like can't even take the proper risks they want to take to pursue the art they're looking for. I think it's a crime that people are going into debt to such a radical degree when their potential income won't even be a third of the debt they're going into. And of course, like, there's musicians who are multimillionaires and stuff, but that really is 0.0001%. And there's plenty of skills required in music that don't make that type of money in. I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say. I guess I'm not trying to say, I hate the trope of like the starving artist trope, because I think it is possible to make a lot of money playing music. But I think if you are starting off at negative 100,000, you're like really gonna kind of be up a creek and trying to eventually be wealthy from music. And yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap it up. Patreon.com/DannyBauer if you want to subscribe to help me out. If you want me to keep doing stuff like this, please drop me a note. Let me know you enjoyed this. I'm obviously going to keep making funny videos and uploading live videos from gigs I do and stuff. If you're in Columbus, I got stuff coming up next weekend, so please come and check that out. And I'll catch you next time. Thank you so much.